Hello and welcome to another episode of Whose Turn Is It Anyway podcast, a podcast about our gaming group shenanigans. My name's Rob, I am your current first player, so hopefully it won't go too bad, but I am joined by JP.
Hello there.
Adrian.
Hello.
CP, Chris Pouncey.
How's it going, guys?
Not just the current first player, you're the new first player.
Ooh, shiny.
You've taken the shiny throne.
That would explain why I've been shining all day.
Oh, nice. Fair enough.
Like a vampire from
Twilight,
yeah. I've been like that all day.
In the sun,
just glimmering away.
Have you just admitted to that, Adrian? Are you a big Twilight fan?
Never seen it.
Oh, fair
Genuinely, never seen it.
Seems to have a lot of inside knowledge.
Fair play. No, it's good to have you as first player, Rob.
Thank you. A little bit nervous, but all good in the hood. So hopefully, we've been doing it okay, and don't want to come along and completely T-bone this podcast that we've got going. So no, but excited. Should be good fun. So what have you been up to, mate?
Not masses. Work, boring crap.
Nice.
Next.
Well, that was short and sweet,
Well,
wasn't it?
it's true. No, I've got something, which is GRIDCON. Right? GRIDCON is soon.
Excited.
Very excited.
Yeah.
I know technically I should wait to the end of the episode and talk about things we're excited about. But
It's also been in the past, based on
yes,
podcast timing.
GRIDCON was brilliant, wasn't it? Did we all enjoy GRIDCON?
Yeah, fantastic time, didn't
Brilliant. Oh, it's
Lovely.
best. I'm so tired from GRIDCON. I have no idea. We've not been yet. And I can't wait.
Good.
So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I haven't been doing a great deal either. We've been very busy at home, so I haven't been playing many games. A little bit of video gaming, and that is about it.
What are you playing? Video games?
Skyrim again.
Hey.
Yeah, I'll explain why at the end.
Okay.
So it's there's something that's kind of triggered me going back and playing it.
That could be.
It's very good though, and I will talk about it later. And leading to the section about Let's Talk About Hex, whereas the section where we talk about games that we've managed to get to the table, and I'll start off with Adrian. What have you managed to kind of get down and play, mate?
I've got quite a few. Normally I turn up and say I haven't played much, but actually I've played quite a lot recently. But what I want to talk about is Pandemic Legacy Season 1. So I'm going to try and keep it relatively spoiler-free, this. But there's a couple of bits I want to talk about that I'm hoping won't spoil it, but if you're really absolutely nothing information, you might need to skip ahead a little bit. But it starts off as regular Pandemic, like the normal base game, and then it slowly, you play 12 months of the year, and every month it adds new mechanics and bits and pieces, and it follows an overall storyline, and it does a really, really good job of it. I'm a big Pandemic fan anyway, and I was really impressed with the storyline and the flow and the way that some of the mechanisms that they introduce last across the entire game, and some just last sort of for the next couple of months. It gives you something new, and then it kind of drops it and says, okay, well, you've had a couple of months of doing that. And yeah, it started off, I think, like a lot of people do with Legacy. I started off with 4 players at the table, then went 9 months where we didn't get it to the table again. So we went down to 3 players of that group, and then it went like another 6 months, and then it was just the 2 of us were just like, let's just get this.
It's like an actual pandemic.
Yeah.
You lost people along the way.
Dark.
I went dark.
But yeah, it was one of those where just the 2 of us ended up doing, I think it was March onwards or April onwards. But really enjoyed it. There was one little sort of niggle point that I didn't particularly like, which is clearly to keep the story moving. It kind of goes, if you haven't accomplished whatever you need to do in the last month or last 2 months, then open this box, and you count as having already completed it. Like they've sort of given you a bonus, and I won't say why because otherwise it will ruin the storyline. But they're like, if you haven't completed it by now, we kind of need to get to the end of the story here, so you count as completing it. And it was a bit of especially part of that, they gave you just a month to do it, and it was like 1 or 2 games, and it felt really short period. Like the rest
shoehorned in a little bit.
Yeah, kind of. It was just that kind of thing of, okay, well, you've managed a lot probably by now, but there might be a couple of bits you haven't managed to accomplish, and so we kind of need to push the storyline on to get to the end. So here's like a cheat, almost like here's your get out of jail free card for that thing. And it kind of soured the experience a little bit. Everything else had been going really well, and you could like move things from one month to another if you needed to, and sometimes you couldn't because of obvious reasons. And then this kind of went, oh, you've been able to move stuff from one month to another until right now when you can't because we need to move the storyline forward. But the storyline was great. Everything in every box, all of the little stickers that came off, all that kind of stuff really was one of the most complete. Haven't played many legacy games, but it was a definite complete story arc. Felt really good. All the components, all the extra bits. Every time you opened a box, there was excitement.
Yeah.
So really good. Really enjoyed it.
So is it a one and done thing, or can you do it again?
No. Well, in the rule book it says you may play this again. There's no way anyone's ever going to take that board out and teach anybody else how to play it with all of these extra rules, because you've got 12 months. You've got somewhere between 12 and 24 games worth of extra rules.
Oh, okay.
And your board's a mess because you've put stickers over it and all that kind of stuff. And so it's just not going to happen. Did it with Risk Legacy. We tried to play it once after the campaign had finished. It's just impossible. No one's going to play it again. But it's there for that one experience. You get those 12 to 24 games out of it. The experience of for what was at the time, I think I paid £45-50 for it. I think that's about what it goes for now
great
as well.
value.
It's just amazing.
For 24
value.
games, that sounds. I was expecting it to be at least sort of £80-90.
No.
About that.
Again, it's not got any massive miniatures in it or anything like that. All of the components are good but basic. And so it kind of makes the most of its money. But yeah, I was really impressed with it. Again, as always, I'm behind the times, I'm aware, because not only have we had season 1, we've had season 2 and season 0 out since. And a lot of people have already played it. But for those that haven't, if you like Pandemic at all, do it.
Every time I hear you talk about Pandemic, I really want to play it.
It's good. I enjoy
I've never played it. I really want to play it after hearing you talk about it.
I played base.
I really enjoy it. I've played the base a lot. I've played Iberia quite a bit, and I've played Fall of Rome quite a bit, and I've played a couple of the others. Star Wars has just come out. That's completely different again.
Like Clone Wars one.
Clone Wars. Yeah. So it uses a similar sort of cube, but it's not cubes, it's little droids sort of thing of pull something off the top of the deck, put a droid in those areas. It makes everything more difficult, but it doesn't have most of the same mechanics as the base version. But it just, you can tell from a playthrough that it's going to feel pandemic-y because they've got the games. But yeah, no, really good. If anyone enjoys the base game, I'd absolutely say whether there's 2 of you, 4 of you, whatever, just go out and get Legacy and play through it. It's just...
I'm going to go and buy it now. You sold it.
It's really good. It is really good. So no, I was really impressed with that.
Awesome. Chris, what have you been up to?
Probably my weekly Gloomhaven, Marvel Champions, and 1 or 2 games of the Bloodborne, the card game, since I got it for my birthday, which was a little while ago now, but finally managed to get that to table a couple of times. So that's been really good fun. Been trying to play some of the characters in Champions I haven't managed to get around and playing, like Black Widow and Hulk, just because they're a bit more...
Some of the new ones.
Oh yeah, yeah. My collection's still slowly growing. The addiction is still there. But no, yeah, just getting around to some of those. I just didn't get around to playing when I first got them, and just sort of had them lying around for ages.
So many characters to play that
I've still got good 6, 7
just never really got round to doing.
Yeah, get in the line. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to make my way through those eventually, and but yeah, that's been pretty good.
How's the Bloodborne card game work then? I've heard about it. I don't know how it works.
Yes, it's essentially it's a turn order deck builder.
Okay.
Where you have a deck of enemies and bosses, and you have a deck of basic cards of basic attacks or basic abilities that you can do. And you go around in turn order around the table, and then the turn's over. If you haven't killed the enemy by that point, most of the time it goes, so you don't get anything for it. If you manage to kill the enemy, you get basically a series of sort of little mini trophies to go with the sort of Bloodborne character gain, the main sort of game. And then you keep going around until all the enemies are gone, and then you tally up who's got the most points, who's got the most trophies, and then you win. But I've heard the nice thing about...
you die.
If you die, you die throughout it, then you just miss the rest of the go, and then you just sort of come back. So it's no sort of, once you're dead, you're out for the rest of the game. You do come back, you just lose a couple of cards kind of thing, and then you come back again. One of the things I really like about it is the stingy way that you get more cards is you sort of start the game with like 5 cards in the sort of collective pool, and then you go round, and when it's the end of the round, the first player picks a card that they want out of the pool, but then the next person goes and picks their card.
Right.
So the person at the end
It's the drag.
could get whatever's this terrible mess that's left that nobody wants to touch.
They're basically swearing, going,
yeah, they're going, you guys, you just left me with the Molotov cocktail again, which does like 1 damage and nothing, which is useless against everything. So, and then once that goes, then you just cycle it back out again, more weapons, and then you just go around. It is meant to be minimum of 3 player. I have played it twice on 2 player, just by tweaking the enemy's health a little bit, because there are weapons that there's basically you can't kill the enemy because they've got too much health.
Yeah.
Essentially, whereas I think the maximum weapon damage that does like 6 potential damage, and some of the enemies have like a minimum of like 15. You just literally can't do it if there's too few players. So we just tweaking the amount of health has been perfectly fine, and we've managed to play it. And it works fine, so it is doable. It's just probably not recommended, but I can't find any more players to play it. It's just me and the missus. We'll just play Bloodborne. It's fine.
She's like, please, can I not play this anymore?
Yeah, she's like, it's either this or Champions. Okay, we'll play Bloodborne.
Yeah, less so.
So is it cooperative or semi-cooperative or competitive? Or...
It's semi-cooperative. Competitive, yes.
Okay.
You are working together to defeat the enemy, but you want to try to defeat the enemy first if you can. You get more points for defeating the enemy, or if you've joined in fighting the enemy, you actually get points.
Okay.
So if it's like 4 players around the table, and the guy's got 15 health, 3 of you do 5 damage, those 3 people will get the points for killing the enemy, whereas the 4th person won't get anything because they haven't taken part.
It's a selfish co-op.
Yes, yeah, and you based on how much damage you do, you get pools of blood, which then you use and bank them for your character, as per the game, and then whoever's got the most at the end, the game wins. So
Sounds good.
it's good fun.
How long does it play? Is it like quite a short game? Does it go on for like a few hours?
I think the 3 of us when we played it probably took about 45 minutes to an hour.
Oh, okay, it's fairly short then.
You can get in an evening. You can probably at least get 2 or 3 games out quite easily if you once you know what you're doing. You can just go bang, 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 fly around the table, and away you go. So it is good fun. I would like to get into the table with us lot because it would be a lot of swearing and abuse.
No.
You took all my weapons.
No, we don't swear.
Doesn't sound like us at all.
No.
What have you been up to, mate?
I have played, like Adrian, I literally went through the event list and went, what have I played since the last recording? And the last recording was a while ago, wasn't it? To be honest, because Becky is just an efficient recording machine.
Yes.
As we've learned. So
The complete opposite to me, it turns out.
Yeah, we've had a nice little break for a few weeks. So, no, look through it and think, God, what do I pick? Because there's so much. So I'm going to save one to talk about later. But the one I want to talk about right now is On Mars. Which is not Terraforming Mars, but On Mars. So On Mars is a very heavy game designed by a prestigious designer called Vital Lacerda, and he is notorious for making very complex, very kind of thematic, heavy games, which are brilliant.
I'm already intimidated.
Yeah, like they are.
I'm out.
I mean, On Mars, I can't remember its BGG rating. Adrian will probably know, but it's over 4.5. I'm sure it's literally on the top end of weight, and basically, I had my first play because Curly did own it. Here's a little hint to what happened. Curly did own it.
And you own it now?
Now I own it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I've acquired it off him. And basically, I had my first play of it, a few weeks ago, and I just absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I thought I would, and I've been wanting to play one of his designs forever. And yeah. Off we go. Played it, loved it. So, for those that don't know what the hell I'm talking about, what it actually
Not a clue, mate.
is essentially you are playing as kind of corporations of basically you want to try and colonize Mars, right? And the whole thing is kind of a mix of worker placement, tile placement kind of game where the board is split into 2 halves. The left side is essentially all the actions you can do when you're in orbit, and the right side is all the actions you can do when you're on Mars, on the surface. And the kind of crux of the game, the bit that breaks your brain and breaks everybody, is that you can only do the actions on the left side when you're in orbit, and you can only do the actions on the right side when you're on the surface. And you've got a plan because there's a shuttle that takes you from back and forth on either side. And at the start of the game, that happens every turn, every round. It goes back and forth. And then later, as you improve the life support system on Mars, it starts to get slower and slower and slower. So you end up spending more actions and more turns in orbit. And you're like, shit, I need to get onto Mars and I need to do these things. I need to build buildings. I need to do all that stuff. And just the timing of that just messes with you, and getting the resources, because a lot of the resources are in orbit, but you need to spend them on the surface. And yeah, it's just, I love it. Absolutely love it.
I got a headache already.
Yeah, it will break you, I think, Rob. And anyone that doesn't like heavy games, stay away from it. But yeah, it's just, I just found it a real joy to play, and just the production quality of the game by Eagle Griffin Games is the publisher. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Like the player boards, and I didn't realise like what it was about games that I really enjoy until I kind of played with that player board. And I think, I really like games that have real complex player boards. That's like your little command centre, and everything's got little slots and everything goes in the right place. And it was brilliant. And yeah, I just think the whole kind of components are just awesome.
Awesome, man.
And it's just, yeah, it's great. And it's made me kind of fall in love with the designer, and I want to try more of his stuff.
We've talked a long time, haven't we? I really want to get the Gallerist.
Yes.
You kind of mentioned a few different ones, but you've obviously started off with On Mars. It's probably lowest on my list of his major games.
Yeah.
But I'm still intrigued to try it, because I've just got, I suppose, the thing that makes it simple for complex games is quite often it's you choose an action, and then out of that action it kind of splits and splits and splits, or you get other choices from that first action. So yes, there's a complex thought process in where do I want to get at the end, but the decision can start with as simple as I want to get this one thing, which then means I could then have to choose out of these two options, which then gives me two more options. And whenever you look at his games, a lot of the games that he does sort of have this very simple one single, here's your first choice, and then it just splits and splits and splits and splits until you've
gradually gets more complex rather than just do whatever you want sort of thing.
Because ultimately the thought process could be I want that bit there, which means I've got to head this way, this route sort of thing down the tree, if you want to, or down however you want to sort of vision this splitting off.
Yeah, like skill trees. Yeah, start there, and then you can make your way.
So
over
you might
to
be like, well, I want to get to that one and that one. That means I've got to go this way. So that means I now have to have the resources to get there, and so
you work backwards.
You kind of then work backwards from it. And every time I've watched a playthrough of the Kanban or the Gallerist or even Vinhos, because they're the three that are right at the top of my list of wanting to play, it just looks such an intriguing concept. And as you say, the production quality is just amazing on all of them. And it's one of those where for something that hasn't got big miniatures or anything like that, pulling £120 on one of those games seems like a big buy into it. But I've just got a funny feeling that I will enjoy it. I've been quite overwhelmed by quite a lot of heavy games recently, and I don't know that I want to do too many heavy games at the moment, but it's certainly on the top of my list of heavy games that I want to get to the table on that. So I know you've picked up others, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, but I'm definitely intrigued.
Nobody can see this, but he's nodding with a real smug look on his face.
I'm not even sorry. But yeah, I've picked up Vinhos. I just thought I really like the look of that. And you might think, well, you've already got a winemaking game with viticulture. Do you need another one? Absolutely. So I've got that. And the other one I've got
wine.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one I've got my eye on is the Weather Machine as well, which I nearly backed. And now I'm like, why didn't I just back it? Because I probably could have got it.
Because at one point you probably backed everything on Kickstarter.
I know. So yeah, basically I am just enjoying exploring his designs at the moment. And yeah, I mean, he played On Mars, loved it. We'll find out. We've got Vinhos in the diary in the next few weeks.
And another On Mars.
And another On Mars,
bit down the road as well, haven't we? So
we'll see how they go. But that's
awesome.
Yeah. What about you, mate?
I've only managed to get one game of Marvel Champions in the last couple of weeks. Like I said, we've been very busy. So good fun, good night. That was with you, Chris, and a couple of our other friends.
Who'd you play?
Hawkeye again.
Hawkeye. You like Hawkeye, don't you?
I did, only because I played the deck once and I didn't fully get to experience it. So I figured I'd play it again. I've got the deck ready made. It's nice and easy to set up. So I thought, rather than then changing it to find out whether I liked it or not, I thought I'd just play the same one again. We played it with you guys with different characters.
We had She-Hulk on the field, Black Widow, because I said I played Black Widow recently, and also, I think it was Venom. It might have been Venom.
Who did you play against? Who was the bad guy?
Green Goblin.
Green Goblin.
Which one? Risky Business?
Yeah.
Or the other one?
No, not the Norman Osborn
Goblin
one.
gimmicks.
The
Goblin
Goblin.
Goblin.
2 encounter cards straight off the top.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yep, and the
Dirty.
unbelievable amount of minions that was just endless and hordes. But it was so much fun. We just suddenly just go, oh look, now there's 10 enemies on the field between the four of
it
us.
came out of nowhere, and for a long time it looked like we weren't going to do it for a long time, and then all of a sudden it just kind of clicked. She-Hulk started doing more and more damage. More and more allies were coming out, which just absorb hits and allow you to stay in it. So, yeah, it was good fun. It went on a little bit longer than...
It was about 4 hours.
I nearly fell asleep at one point, but it was great fun. So, yeah, but that's the only thing I've managed to get to the table. And now, leading on to the main event, I think it warrants a little bit of sort of historical perspective. I am obviously a member of this gaming group, but I've been very lucky that the rest of the guys in the group have massive amounts of knowledge on board games, publishers, designers. I'm just kind of the idiot that turns up to games that he's been invited to.
Yep.
And if I like them, I like them. And if I don't, I don't. I don't really worry about it too much. I know what I enjoy. I'll happily play the majority of games, providing they're not Mind Clash games, because they hurt my brain. So I've been very lucky that JP is an avid collector of some of the greatest board games in history, and I've got to experience them with a very patient person who's willing to teach me. So the reason I thought about this as a topic, that most of the games that I've experienced, especially when I started playing board games, were all Fantasy Flight published. So I thought I'd talk about Fantasy Flight as a whole, because there seems to be, whenever I mention Fantasy Flight with the more experienced board gamers, there's not quite an eye roll, but there is a look on people's faces where you can go, oh God, really? So it kind of feels like they've fallen from grace a little bit, and I wanted to kind of figure out why, because they've published some of the greatest games I've ever played. Yeah. And I was looking at my collection, and probably 99% of it is Fantasy Flight published. So I wanted to sort of talk about some of the games that I've played and some of the games that you've played and loved, and then kind of found out what's really happened with them, because like I say, my knowledge isn't as extensive as you guys. And kind of find out what the feeling is and kind of what's happened. So JP, your Fantasy Flight journey,
my experience.
Well,
my experience, and if you've listened to the very, very, very first episode of our podcast,
which obviously everybody has,
right? If not, come and listen to it. And apologies of the audio quality.
We were still learning.
We were still a bit I say we, it was me.
We were young and stupid.
Yeah, I was an idiot. No, but I rejoined this hobby in 2017, as mentioned, and FFG, as we'll call them now, because it's just easier and quicker. Yeah. FFG was kind of my first publisher to kind of re-experience board gaming, and it was XCOM as my first ever kind of FFG game, really. And I kind of had that, and because I was coming in fresh, because I was coming in new, I just thought, whoa, this is amazing. I can't believe that board games exist like this. And all of the usual things that many people kind of go through when they learn about the hobby. So naturally you go into, well, what else do they do?
And they always came with that handy little catalogue of like the next 4 games that were sort of coming out. And you think,
Game of Thrones.
That looks good.
Masters of Madness. Oh, like you end up kind of researching, and then you find Board Game Geek, and what the hell's Board Game Geek, and you end up going on there, and then it all spirals out of control.
For some of us,
yeah. So I kind of, in the early days, I felt like I wanted to collect most of FFG's back catalogue. And I can kind of see my shelves growing and growing with games, thinking, well, steady on, boy. You've got 6 games, like, Jesus, calm down. Whoa. And I only had like a I think the Kallax was just a 1x4 set. And that was it. And even that was getting like full, and I was like, calm down. And I think it wasn't until probably fairly recently, maybe like 2, 3, 4 years ago, that I kind of noticed, and maybe as my taste broadened and found out there were more publishers than Fantasy Flight games. There different ones out there that do all sorts of different things, and started dabbling in different games. I kind of started to see a shift with FFG, and lots of people leaving. The CEO at the time, Christian Peterson, is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, he basically designed Twilight Imperium, this guy, and he ended up running Fantasy Flight Games. And so anyone who designed Twilight Imperium for me is like much respect, because that game is...
It's been mentioned a couple times on the podcast before.
It's so good, and it's so long, and it breaks people. But no, he left, and I think we're back in 2014, 2015. Asmodee kind of acquired FFG, and it just felt like a lot of the kind of properties that they were working on, a lot of the projects they were working on were just being stripped away. Lots of teams and people kind of moving on and leaving or divesting or whatever. And yeah, it just felt like that they were heading in a real positive direction. Lots of excitement, lots of new things, lots of innovation they were trying out with things like Keyforge and various other kind of properties. They just opened or announced they were doing a whole digital kind of gaming arm of the business, and then suddenly just went, no, we're going to scrap this, we're going to stop this, we're going to call this, and things were being dropped rather than things were being added. And maybe, I don't know the financial situations, maybe it needed to happen for it to be sustainable. Who knows? We're never going to know. But I think from a consumer or from an outside perspective, I definitely noticed that they just don't feel like they're the company they were. And it might be tarnished because of my experience, and I've broadened into I'm going into Mind Clash games, chip theory games. Had to get it in there. And various...
If anyone's playing the drinking game, there's your first.
Yeah, wait, shot. But no, I'm literally quite agnostic of publisher. I will try anything from any publisher. I'm more about the game now rather than the publisher. So that's kind of my feelings of them. I still love FFG. I still think they've done and still do some fantastic games. Their production quality is fantastic in the most part. So yeah, I don't kind of roll my eyes over it. I just feel like they're not where they were or could have been, maybe, and that's just my inexperienced, stupid opinion.
Because what the hell do we know?
That's all it is. That's all it is. It's not really founding on anything, really.
Chris, when you came into it, you played a lot of FFG games. I think your first kind of proper game was Arkham Horror, right?
Yeah. My first experience with board gaming, sort of in general, rather than Monopoly and Cluedo, and then a few years later, it's like, oh,
sorry, what?
Yeah, exactly. Games that no one's ever heard of or ever played or wish to play ever again in their lives. Once you get into this kind of thing, this kind of depth of stuff. But no, it was straight into, there's a game that we've got. It's called Arkham Horror. It's about, mythological.
I think
and you just went, come and play, and I was like, okay, fine, all right, I'll give it a go. And then the rabbit hole went, and then away we go. And
I think I sold it to you as an RPG game with cards.
Yes, you did.
I think that was the only way I could get him to the table. I was like, the story grows, you level up, which you don't, but
you lied there basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I don't feel bad about it. But like a lot of the games that we play now are Fantasy Flight games, and like I was listening to you then, thinking that they're kind of dead and buried, but they're not. Far from it, because like some of the games that I want to talk about in a little bit, fairly new. Some of the greatest games I've ever played. But what was your sort of journey with FFG? Did you start off with FFG, or did you kind of pick it up as you go along every now and then?
FFG was certainly in the mix. I think anyone coming into the hobby now will have a slightly different picture to FFG to what I think anyone who's like 2016, 2014 before will have had. Because essentially what they've done is FFG holds on to the LCGs, the living card games, and the big boxes mostly. Atomic Mass games now hold on to all their miniatures, the Star Wars Legions, the Crisis Protocol, X-Wing, and Z-Man, which does Pandemic, just to drop that one in again. They hold a lot of the Euros. At the time, when I first got into them, FFG had a little bit of everything. And so they were kind of a much more all-encompassing brand than they are now. And if you were to get into gaming now, you probably wouldn't recognise them. So, yeah, I I kind of did like, Battlestar Galactica, that was FFG.
Drink.
Game of Thrones, that was FFG. I have played a few of those. Then I went and played X-Wing and Armada and a little bit of that kind of stuff as well. And played like Bloodborne Manager. So they used to have a relationship with Games Workshop and used to run all of their IP board games as well. And then I'm going to kind of make a bit of a possibly controversial hot take on this, which is to say that I did what I think JP is talking about, but before, is that I think you get a certain way into gaming, like almost a certain number of years into gaming, and then your honeymoon period with FFG kind of lessens a little bit, and you kind of know what you want out of that company or what you don't want. And my feeling on that is because FFG do a great job of a certain level of components. They produce a certain quality on the board. They produce a certain level, maybe not the gold standard, but they produce a certain level of rule sets. But what they really produce is a feeling. You look at every single game, whether it's like War of the Ring and Rebellion, or whether it's Fury of Dracula or Twilight Imperium, they all create a feeling. The rules may not be the most balanced, they may not be the most perfect rule sets out there, and it may not be the most top quality board game, but it will be a very good quality board game. But once you start realising where you actually want to get your feels from, and it may be that I still want to get the feels that FFG gives me when I'm playing a board game, but I think a lot of people then, it's a natural way into that level of board gaming, and then you diverge and you figure out whether you want to be a beige Euro gamer, which I am, that's not an insult, but like if you want to be a beige Euro gamer, or if you want to be like a zombicide, like dungeon sort of basher, or whatever you want to go out and do, you kind of work it out from there. FFG holds these lovely IPs that a lot of people know, Star Wars and stuff like that, for instance, and it's a perfect way into that level of gaming. And then, like, I found that I was just struggling to see where the balance was in certain games, or that after a few of each game, the feeling was kind of lessening, because it's all about the experience. And if you've experienced it a few times, how do you keep recapturing that? And so I did what JP's mentioned. I kind of went, okay, what else is out there in the world? I'd already started with some other games, like I got into Dominion when I was first sort of getting into board games, and some other ones as well. So I did have experience of non-FFG, but certainly the percentage of FFG I was playing decreased over time.
Is that because everybody else kind of caught up to what they were doing, or is that because they lessened what they were doing? Is it because it felt for me that they were the main pillar, if that makes sense, because they were the only games that I was playing, because they were the only games JP was buying.
Yeah, I had a lot to do with it.
There's the money bags over there.
And so my experience was mainly that, and then you started hearing about these other publishers that, if you like this, then you'll like this from a different publisher. If you like, your miniature games, now this mad company called Simon have come in, and and if you like minis, they've got minis for everyone.
Yeah.
So is it that everybody kind of caught up and maybe overtook them, or is it that they kind of dropped off a little bit?
Yeah, I don't think they've dropped off, I'll be honest. I think they have stood still and grown slightly in the way that they approach games, the way that they do different bits and pieces. There's a couple of, I had some real problems with the way they first started out with X-Wing and Armada and a few bits which we'll talk about hopefully later on. But I think they grew a bit, and I think other companies have grown more than them. But more importantly, I think other companies have also been able to buy lots of IPs. And therefore, IPs were pretty much FFG's thing. If they could get hold of an IP, then they had it like they would. And then they grew their own with the Arkham series and all that kind of stuff, Mr. Wibbles. They grew on that side, whereas now other companies are like, oh, you want Umbrella Academy, or you want, I'm just trying to think of like Dune and those kind of things, great. These other companies all have IPs on that. And so between that and the sort of geek chic, Big Bang Theory sort of
Marvel,
love of
everything coming out.
This
geek culture
really rising up has meant that people have been in interest of exploring more games as well, rather than just whatever the IP is.
Yeah.
So
but I suppose back in the day, that was the big selling point. You love Game of Thrones.
I remember seeing Game of Thrones on a shelf and going, "What?
Yeah.
Like, let's buy it straight away."
Yeah. They're a big casting net.
Yeah.
That's what I think FFG are. They're like the casting net you throw into the ocean to get the new people into the hobby, and that they're very successful at that because of those IPs. You know, you look at Star Wars. What's this Rebellion game I've heard about? And you play it and you go, oh my God, it's amazing.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic.
So yeah, I think they're very good at doing that.
Because one of the best games that I've played, new games, because I've been exploring older games, because like I said, I didn't have a lot of games. It's just whatever JP was playing and I was invited to. But Outer Rim, for me,
one I've not played.
It's fantastic. Like, they've nailed the thematics of it. They've nailed the IP. You know, it's very true to the Star Wars universe, and it is a lot of fun to play. And it's one of the best experiences I've had of a new game in a very, very long time. So, yeah, I mean, for that for me was absolutely fantastic, to the point where Tambo's got it, and I'm probably going to buy it anyway.
Happens a lot.
Yeah, that need is so strong. But no, I think the thing I found for me, when I started to notice how I felt slightly differently about FFG, was actually going to UK Games Expo. And usually FFG are a big prominent feature at the UK Games Expo. They have a lot of real estate kind of space they devote to their games. And I stopped to kind of think that they didn't have like a core major release that they would push. Like, usually every year there's something that's coming out, like Outer Rim. I remember when Outer Rim came out, they all like went behind it. There's loads of it all out. Loads of people started to play it and you all got excited about it. But over the kind of years, the pandemic hasn't helped, obviously. But over the years, it's just been
COVID, not the board game.
Yeah, not the board game. Yeah, no, leaving the board game out for the moment.
How dare you?
And it's kind of, I feel like they haven't got this big thing they can kind of get behind, and that might be unfounded. I don't know. It's just my feeling.
I was going to say, Unfathomable was a massive release. Again, like didn't tickle my taste buds because I don't really get on with the Arkham theme, but if you look at the online forums when that released, there was a big sort of, okay, this is brilliant, we've been asking for this for ages.
Maybe that's just my taste.
But we play Battlestar once, twice a year.
Yeah.
So for people that haven't played Battlestar in a very long time,
or don't have £500 to buy it in the first expansion,
exactly, like, that is wonderful. I think, but because we play it,
it doesn't feel new to me. That's
it. It didn't feel new. It didn't feel.
And that's what I'm like. If you're 2 years into it, 3 years into it, the likelihood is you don't have Battlestar.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
You know, rare as rocking or shit at this point. So it's one of those where Unfathomable was a big release to sort of perhaps newer players or people who hadn't got into BSG the first time or weren't into BSG. I think BSG for me is a better theme, and I think when I've sort of had a look around, a lot of people did seem to prefer the BSG theme, but it's got a theme that's different and it's new and it's got better mechanics by all accounts in it and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that was last year's sort of big, or maybe earlier this year. I've kind of lost track of time.
I think it's probably just me. It's probably my feelings on it, and maybe they're just not releasing stuff now that I'm excited about. Maybe that's probably what it is, and like you say, it's a good point, because they are releasing things and other people go, yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I think it's probably just a me thing.
But again, is that because other people are launching? There are more and more games. It feels like there are more and more games out there now.
There's a lot.
Yeah, so I think just people are encroaching on a territory that wasn't encroached on.
Yeah,
you know, like before they had quite a free reign of all the IPs, all this kind of quality of board game. There wasn't a lot else that had the quality of even Game of Thrones. You know, got those little marbleized. I remember going out and buying packs of those separate to the game because I wanted them for other like wargaming stuff to sort of as like little markers and stuff like that. Because no one had seen this kind of level of. It sounds crazy. Bits of marbleized plastic, and you're going, oh, no one has seen this quality of board game, because they hadn't genuinely at the time. There wasn't a lot of that out there, and now the sides are being pushed in on that company, and I still think they're doing great things, but I do think people are taking a little bit off of them, a little bit of territory away from them.
They're definitely a bit more focused, I would say, and whether they're doubling down on the product line or the IPs that they have. They just feel like they've shrunk in what they're doing. And then probably putting more effort into the things that they are doing.
Because, I mean,
it's not a bad thing.
Most of the games that, well, certainly I play with Chris, obviously Descent, Marvel Champions, Star Wars Imperial Assault, and I get what you're saying about that feeling of kind of dulls down over time. But I think the stories that they've introduced with those games kind of keep it fresh to a degree. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, obviously, once you've done the story,
And this is the point, isn't it? Is it's
but I've done 2 start playthroughs with Descent,
right. Okay.
and it was we had a game when it came out, and we did 3 or 4 in like 2 days.
A week, wasn't it? Yeah.
And then we started playing it as just me and Chris. Then Tambo came on. Then Davey came on, and the stories were different.
Yeah.
You know, the events. It was the same story, but different events happened in those things. So even it was a nice twist for me, thinking I know what's coming, and then all of a sudden it's like get the big, you know, sort of 12-inch miniature out and set that up, and I'm like, oh shit, he's come out early. Like, I've never seen him before. Oh god. So you know, with the app and things like that,
They've certainly, like, you look at Imperial Assault. I was thinking Imperial Assault. That story is very the same. You have to buy the expansion to really get another story out of it.
Yes.
So this is what I'm saying, right? They're growing. They're getting better. They are doing better things as time goes on, but some of those experiences are kind of frozen. You'll do them once, or you can't really replay them without feeling the same sort of thing.
Yeah,
again.
I see that.
Personal opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I see what you're saying. I just anything Star Wars I'm in.
yeah. I know.
This is why this is a good topic, because I think for me and Adrian, we have a different view.
Yeah.
And it's not a negative view, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
We're not sitting here going, "Oh, FFG are rubbish,"
Yeah, no
because
one
they're
should be
not.
playing it and all
They're
that
not
kind
at
of
all.
stuff. No, not
They're
that.
bloody brilliant. The games, as we said, we still play them now, and we love most of the stuff they put out. To be fair, but yeah, it's just a different contrast, isn't it?
Yeah,
compared to maybe
just...
you two are in a different space with it, and that's
So
great.
We're casuals compared to
I
compared to
definitely
you
class
guys.
myself as a casual
Yeah.
board gamer.
Nothing
I'm still
wrong
very
with that.
much in that honeymoon period with FFG. I still essentially that's all I really play, bar maybe 1 or 2 things that are by different publishers. But I'm still find myself gravitating back towards those sort of classic FFG games.
But I'm almost
been
jealous.
around.
Like when you kind of watch a series, and we've had this conversation, Rob, about Breaking Bad, and I feel so excited that he hasn't seen it. Yeah, listeners, like, have a go at him. He hasn't seen Breaking Bad.
The only reason I haven't watched it because of how infuriated you get the
Yeah.
fact that I haven't watched it.
Yeah,
but
but-
Chris is exactly the same with Game of Thrones.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, and every time you mention it, you'll love this. I go, I probably will, and
I'm
then I
not
don't
gonna
watch
do
it.
it.
I get it from both angles. I enjoy doing it to you, and I hate the fact that he's doing it to me. But also, there's something nice about coming back to something you know.
Like a comfortable pair of
Yeah,
slippers.
it's like watching Friends. Like, you know, where it's, you know what's happening. You still enjoy it. It's comfortable.
That's fair.
And that for me, like, I haven't played Mansions of Madness in a very long time, but I am always excited to play that game.
That's a great game.
If somebody said to me,
Fantastic.
"Shall we play Mansions?" Hell yes, I am up for that. Same with Rebellion. But I've only played it the once.
Love it.
That one experience I had was just so goddamn good. I couldn't stop talking about it for about 2 days. My wife nearly strangled me.
Yeah, but we can have 2 Death Stars.
I know.
don't care.
I know. We were at the polar opposite ends of the excitement spectrum on that, to the point where I nearly died. But like even like we played Journeys Through Middle Earth a couple of times when Curly had it.
Oh, nice.
Curly sold it, so it kind of ended our thing. But I don't think we gave it a big enough shot, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
No, it was just starting to get good. You
But
were just starting to find some items and things where your character's starting to change, and you can change the way that they play rather than just you're the ranger, you do range things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the price of it was going very highly priced second hand. And
Yes.
Curly wasn't enjoying it as much as what I
It's
think.
fair enough.
Which is absolutely fair enough.
Especially when you shelled out money to
Oh,
buy it.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Selfish kid. Sold it and made a profit on it. How dare he? But like, again, I kind of forgot that FFG did that game.
Yeah.
And going through, we had a quick look back through the catalogue of games before we started this, and like Keyforge was massive.
Yeah.
Love it.
Was huge. It was almost like it peaked very quickly from what I experienced.
Yeah.
I might be completely wrong. Again, I'm a moron. So
You're going to keep bringing that subject up, aren't you?
yeah, because
That's his caveat.
Yeah.
It's basically like, I know nothing here.
people forget and think I have a clue what I'm talking about, and I don't. So I need to remind them. But like, I mean, it's all everyone played. But I remember guys like Alex buying packs. I remember like, for days you having packs sat on the side there. Well, that's Ian's, that's Alex's.
Yeah.
That's this person, because you bought them in a bulk.
Yeah, you could buy like kind of a box of 10 or something. You could have bought. Yeah.
Don't know why you bought 10 boxes of 10, but still.
Nah, I didn't buy that many. I think I ended up with five, maybe 8 or something. Decks.
Is it still quite a big competition scene in that game?
No.
They broke the algorithm that makes the decks, or something along those lines, and they've spent a couple of years fixing them, and it's now ready to be relaunched, or is just relaunched.
Okay.
I've got a funny feeling from the hype or lack of that they've missed the boat on this one now, because it was so hyped.
It was huge.
And then just kind of fell off. It was starting to sort of come, like my understanding of it was starting to come back down again, and then the algorithm broke, which meant that it just kind of died on its ass basically at that point. And then now they've fixed it and they're going to relaunch it again, or they have relaunched it, but there doesn't seem to be as much hype about it this time around.
It's a different company though, isn't it? Different publisher.
It
It's
is,
the guy who used to run FFG. It's his new company, and he's taken basically Keyforge IP.
Because didn't Ian sell like a deck for like 130 quid or something stupid like that?
He had a rare combination of cards, and he got £300 or something.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the point, wasn't it? As you buy a deck, you can't change it. It is fixed. The deck you buy might be crap, or it might be brilliant, and there were people turning up with their worst decks that they handed to their opponent for the day, and their opponent had to play with it, and it was whoever won out of that.
Yeah, it's kind of reversed. I'll give you my shit deck, you give me your shit deck, and we'll see who wins.
We'll see, and there was like random ideas like that around, which were totally unheard of, but it was only possible because of the way that they made Keyforge. So, totally revolutionary, totally different idea that they came up with, and they did. And, unfortunately, say the algorithm broke or whatever it was, but something totally different, something they hadn't really done before.
It felt like a bit of a flash in the pan. It kind of came very quickly.
We played at UK Games Expo, the tournament. A few of us, we entered into the tournament. We didn't do very well. And the best thing about that tournament was watching the grown man cry. I don't know who it was.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say like Ian or someone was just bawling his eyes out, bless him.
I think it was the final or something, and he ended up having a breakdown, but that was quite interesting. Mate, it's just Keyforge.
Please do write to us if this was you. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah,
please tell us why.
But again, something very different, something that, again, accessible.
Yep.
Somebody's, most people have heard of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
It was almost like an easier version of something like that.
Yeah.
Get to bring people in.
It's a low cost entry point.
Exactly.
It's like £8 and you're in.
But even
I'm still trying to do Star Wars Destiny. Star Wars Destiny was one of theirs.
Great game.
And really enjoyed that. Unfortunately, I think they did the right thing. Right, they got to the end of 7 seasons of bringing out cards, and they went, we're going to wrap this up and close it now. It's done. Like, rather than wear through and relaunch and cause any problems, they kind of went, we're done with this now. Packaged it up, sort of thing, and left it as it was. But totally different idea of sort of a mix of card building and dice chucking sort of game that was really good. I really enjoyed it. And again, that had production issues at the start, and by the time they sorted out the production issues, some people had already sort of like called on it and stuff like that. But really strong, really good game that they produced, that was again not a living card game, but an actual trading card game.
Okay, I've never heard of that.
You'd love it, I bet.
I
think you'd love it.
Has it got Star Wars in it?
Yeah.
Then I'd love it.
Star Wars Destiny. It's I am basically putting together a few different decks, like pre-cons, so that I can just rock up and hand out some decks and tell them roughly what's in it, and then we can do it that way. So I'm kind of building. I've managed to get a bit more in the dice into my collection, so that's what I'm going to do. So
I'd be keen.
We'll definitely get another night of that.
That reminds me of it's got nothing to do with Street Fighter, because it hasn't. But it's the fact that you pick, was it 1 or 2 heroes on your side, and then your opponent picks 1 or 2 heroes, and it might be like Darth Vader and someone else, and you've got like Han Solo and Luke or whoever from the Star Wars universe, and you're just battling each other, and you've got like an environment you're fighting on, you're chucking dice, you're going, apply that, do that damage, put my shields up, and it's like that to and froing back and forth.
Oh, cool, that sounds awesome.
Really good kind of battle-y card game / dice game. Yeah, I think you'd love it.
And it does work fairly well at 3 players as well, which is very rare for any kind of trading card game to work well at more than 2. but it actually works pretty well. It can get a bit lopsided if you gang up on each other, but assuming you sort of play it in good spirit, then
I like the way it will start in good spirit and then everyone be like, no.
yeah, maybe, but it was really, yeah. I played a couple of 3-player games and really enjoyed it because
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, again, like trading card games don't normally allow 3 or 4 players without doing weird shenanigans to the base game. But no, it perfectly. I took a deck that I'd been playing 2-player and I took it to a 3-player game and it worked. So
Happy days.
yeah, I was very impressed with it at the time, and I think they've done the right thing by packaging it up and saying this is done rather than stretching it
Just
forever.
trying it and then because the quality will gradually drop off as they're running out of things to do.
Yeah, the fact that it's based on an IP, right, means that they've only got limited space to go in, and after 7 seasons or whatever it was, with about, I want to say about 14, 16 characters a season, they were getting to the point where they were like, this is old Luke, this is young Luke, this is Luke from episode 4, episode 5, and so it was getting a bit like, how much more space have you got in this? But that was really good. Really
And then
good.
it gets to a point of how much you're willing to pay for those tiny tweaks in a game that is slowly coming down. But I mean, we're just looking at the list in front of me. All the games that are on this list, I've absolutely loved playing, and I've loved introducing other people to them. Like, I remember the first time we played Mansions, one of the funniest times I've ever had, where Chris just snuck through and we wondered what he was doing and thought he was playing it wrong, and it turns out he just
masterminded it.
Absolutely spanked us all. But even like Curly has recently got into Lord of the Rings, the living card game.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful game. Knew exactly where to stand, knew exactly what to do, because we played other living card games very similar. But even like for my birthday one year, you bought me Citadels.
Yeah,
wonderful game.
I love Citadel.
Played it on holiday.
That was somebody that was a different company that started that one, I believe.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, but whoever, like Z-Man had it for a little while, and there's another publisher that had it for a while. But what a great game!
It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Because Davey has the
deluxe version. Yeah,
he's got the deluxe version with the additional characters and stuff like that. And I think you bought me like the travel version.
Just got you the classic version.
Yeah, and I think we played it on holiday. We've played it with our wives, played it with our children, and again, easy enough that everyone can kind of. There's enough to it tactics wise that I get confused.
I'm the spy. I'm the thief. What?
Yeah, and I've got to keep looking at my cards, trying to figure out who the hell I am. But again, really, really enjoyed it. And yeah, so it's not all about the big, the big mini packs that you get in like things like Descent and like Star Wars, but also the living card games. So obviously, Fantasy Flight isn't really Fantasy Flight anymore. They were bought out by Asmodee in sort of 2014, 15.
Something along that lines.
Where would your hopes be for the company moving forward? As in, again, like I know it feels like they haven't had any big releases in a while, but like you said, you've got Unfathomable, you've got Outer Rim.
I think Adrian's point is completely valid. It's just they don't feel like they have for me, and that's a different thing rather than them not having it.
Or is it more kind of double down on what they've already done, like Marvel Champions and Outer Rim and Descent? I know there's a new chapter of Descent Part 2 coming out, I think, at some point, which I'm very excited for.
I personally would like to see them try and go back to their innovative roots of, when they brought out, again, Keyforge as an example. Like, that was completely new. Like, no one had ever tried doing anything like that I know of. I'd like to see them experiment a little bit on some of those things. And you could say they have with Descent, with the app that they've kind of brought out with that. That's definitely an experimentation. But yeah, I personally would like to see them do some of that new stuff that maybe the other publishers don't even kind of go near, to help differentiate themselves a little bit. That's just my view.
Chrissy, you happy for them to keep bringing out Champions packs, or would you like to see them do something a little bit different?
Well, I'm always for playing something different. I always find myself revolving back to the old stuff. But yeah, if they want to do whatever they're going to do, really,
you give it a go regardless.
I love the heavy thematic stuff. So yeah, keep with that. It's fine by me. But obviously, everyone's got their own opinion to do what they want.
What would it take for Adrian to fall in love again with the excitement part of FFG games?
Twilight Imperium 5th edition?
Oh God, no.
We just saw a little bit of spirit leave his body.
I want a version that takes more than 12 hours to play.
I don't mind Twilight Imperium 4th. It's just that it is that it's unbalanced and it's got a feeling and that's it. I don't, for that amount of time, I want something more out of my experiences. And there's me with saying that with Axis and Allies, which is just the same starting moves that anyone who's played it will just always play the same starting moves again. So there's a bit of hypocrisy in there, but just, I think I'm really happy with what they've done, separating out, giving their Euros to Z-Man, having FFG be what they are, big box games, big experience LCGs, and then handing over the miniatures side. There's two reasons for that, is that FFG, when they first started, had this horrible business model, which was very trading card game-esque of, you want to buy the Y-Wing for X-Wing, the game, but the card you really want is in that TIE Fighter. Because basically the Y-Wing is not really much without that one. And eventually it got to the point where they were like, what you really want to be competitive is you want this like tiny little ship, but we've put the card that makes it good in this big £80 Star Destroyer. You buy that Star Destroyer and this little ship gets good and gets competitive and tournament worthy. And they've, over iterations from Armada into Imperial Assault into Armada into Legion, they've slowly pulled that back and pulled it back to the point where I think it's more bearable now than it was in X-Wing, because they were really bad at it. Yeah. It wasn't even like, to get this X-Wing good, you need to buy a Y-Wing. No, it was, to get this X-Wing good, you need to buy the other side's packs that you don't want to play, potentially, the TIE Fighters. So Atomic Mass games certainly don't seem to be doing too much of that now that they've got hold of the miniature games. So from that point of view, I think they've done good things there. I'd like to see them tighten up their rule sets a little bit, because we'll use I know we talked about Marvel Champions a lot when we said we wouldn't talk about LCGs, but there's a page and a half errata on the word "you," and they still use it in all their packs. Why? I've got to go through a page and a half errata to work out if this "you" means me as a player or me as the alter ego hero. Why? 4 cycles later, are they still putting the word "you" into things? Just
they are consistent.
But it's not. It's impossible. They're consistently bad. It's just impossible to get an understanding of it, and you just think, why would you continue to do that?
Adrian's vein on his head.
Yeah.
I can't handle this.
I don't think I've read a rule book.
Well, there you go then.
You two are the complete spectrum opposite.
But look at how happy I am with that game.
And so I play it a lot, right? So
I know. I was joking.
I'm not to the point of the rule book is so bad it's off-putting. It's to the point of I wish they would tighten up things that they know they have issues with, because if you look at their questions that they answer and live streams, they're very aware that the rule sets aren't perfect. All of that kind of stuff is I really am a big fan of FFG and some of the stuff they do. Yes, I've called on it over the years, but I just wish they'd sort of fine tune a few bits of their company and
That's
so
fair.
from a where do they go from here? Just keep doing the same stuff. Just get a bit tighter at the corners as to how you produce that.
For me, it's just bringing out Descent. If you
bringing out Descent.
You bring that game out, I will buy it until I die. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Keep doing what you're doing without a rim. And Unfathomable. Just if you purely stick to those 3 games for the rest of the time, you'll have a loyal customer until the end of days. And do you know what? I'm not even ashamed of it.
No, you shouldn't be, mate. It's about what you enjoy, isn't it? At the end of the day.
And like I say, all these games that I've got, I will play time and time again. Yeah. And for me, and like you said, the experience of playing those games, I always get a little bit of it. Always.
I mean, it's why they keep releasing expansions, right? FFG, it's almost a meme of FFG. Oh, what they bought out an expansion. Of course they have. Is because that's how you get the new experiences. Is Imperial Assault, they bought out several boxes. Journeys to Middle Earth, they've bought out several boxes and several little packs to add extra monsters in and all that. That's how they keep producing the experiences, by selling you a new expansion. So, from a business model, brilliant.
I will happily buy them all.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's it. Is you're kind of, to keep getting the new experience, you need to keep buying the expansions, right? And so for some people, that'll be their hobby. That'll be their life. Is just buying constant expansions, one on top of the other. Nothing wrong with that at all. So
just keep doing what you're doing. Fantasy Flight, I love it.
Fair play.
Okay, and now it's time for a question from a member of the public, which has kindly got in touch with us on Instagram, at boardgamejimmy. He's commented a lot and he's asked a very valid question, which I think will shake us to the very foundations of our soul.
Before you ask it, though, just a big shout out to Jimmy. He's pretty much, he engages with us a lot, comments a lot, shares our stuff. So massive thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jimmy, for that. And we love you, mate.
Much appreciated.
His question, as deep and meaningful as it is, I will need to answer honestly and respectfully, please.
Okay, what is it?
What is your snack and drink of choice when it's board game night?
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. I did tell you. I tried to warn you.
I've just reeled back in my chair and I had to think about this.
This deep pondering question.
So, Adrian, what's your go-to energising drink and snack to get you through the hard slog of the minefield that is the epic beige board game?
Yeah. What gets you moving
There's
those
a lot
cubes?
of oversell on this, isn't there? Right? Okay.
Not at all, how dare you?
For me, it's especially if you're playing a day, right? You need sugar halfway through the day. You don't start with the sugar because otherwise you'll just crash.
I've made this mistake.
Yeah, you bring out all the snacks to the table. So if I'm hosting, quite often I'll have in a supermarket. You get the packs of just like brownie chunks and snowballs, the marshmallow and coconut things. Little tubs. They're normally like 3 for whatever it is. I'll have a couple of those on the side. It gets to like 3-4 hours in a gaming, or maybe a little bit before that, and then those tubs come out, and it's normally whatever I could get my hands on of brownies and cookies and flapjack bites and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I tend to bring to the table.
So nothing specific, just a broad genre of baked goods.
Yeah, we had the games day and I just bought packs and packs of Malwam, didn't I?
That went down well.
Which went down really well, but it's that thing of it's sugar and it's something, in the middle of the day that's just going to do that. And on that basis as well, my drink that everyone always goes, why? But I've always got bottles of it in the house is Iron Brew. Love Iron Brew.
Fair play.
And it's just sugary. Like even the extra one that doesn't have any sugar in tastes sugary, right? Like it just tastes of like...
And because it's not your typical choice, nobody will nick it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because Curly always brings a bottle of Pepsi Max, and I always nick at least 2 glasses. So I get your choice. This is my drink.
Just like it.
Stay away.
It just reminds me, I have to say it before I forget, but I've never seen him so angry when he had a bowl of Bombay mix that Becky and his brother Jay was stealing, and no matter what side he put it on his left side, Becky was stealing it, put it on his right side, and Jay was stealing it, and he was like, right, just piss off, and my Bombay mix.
He's a very gentle man, isn't he? He doesn't get angry about a lot.
Oh yeah, but I imagine if you nick a couple of his ice pops, he turns up with these ice pops, doesn't he? So okay, I reckon if you nick a couple of those without asking first,
you've got to ask.
He'll put you through a window.
You've got to show a certain level of respect. You can't take. You have to ask.
I love him.
I think I know what Chris is, but go for it.
Mine.
Yes.
Start off with a cup of coffee with a couple of sugars in it, just to get you started, get the sugar going.
Oh, you've gone other ways to Adrian. You start with the sugar.
I start off with the sugar, and
He's
then
got a 5-course menu.
And then I top up the sugar halfway through with Red Bull or a can of Monster or something, just to get you through to the rest of the day. But the actual snack of choice is either Pringles or Doritos. Easy. Yeah. It's a savoury starch. Gimme.
What Doritos flavour?
Oh, chili heatwave, definitely.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Then,
nice and dusty for your cards.
Yeah.
That's why you always leave your cards.
Yeah.
Well, I think I know what yours is. You've been quite boring lately. What's yours?
It depends. I didn't even think about this question being an all-day event or just a gaming evening. So if it's a gaming evening, it's literally a cup of tea and that's it. I don't tend to snack because I'm trying to be healthy. Ooh. But if it's a board game day, then yeah, you need to eat at some point. So
bear in mind, this is the man who cooks a full roast dinner when they play Twilight Imperium.
I don't anymore.
Only because you've managed to get it down to 7 hours.
Did you say that? When we had the last board game day, you produced like chicken nuggets and pizzas and...
Yeah, but that's easy.
It was like a buffet of pig food, wasn't it? It wasn't done
I need to start playing TI just so that I can get fed.
Yeah, I once made shepherd's pie. which we broke TI about 3.5 hours in, 4 hours in. Right, down tools, shepherd's pie time, and that went down well. That was pretty good.
I'm not surprised. They're playing a board game
You're such
and
a
getting
grown-up,
fed.
JP.
Yeah, I know,
Really
yeah. Anyone want shepherd's pie? A bit of vegetables, lovely. So yeah, I don't tend to put as much effort in now because I can't be asked. But
You've changed.
Adrian's right.
You've
Pizzas,
changed. You've changed.
pizzas are easy.
If you're doing a full day, my roleplay group basically does like a ploughman's thing where they kind of just put the ham and the cheese and the bread rolls
Yeah.
and all the
Beige buffet, baby.
sausage rolls and all that kind of stuff, and that will
And a
fill
snack
you up
as you
well.
go.
Yeah.
It's inoffensive. No one normally turns away like cheese board and hams and all that kind of stuff, do they? So no, and it's cheap and it's easy. Don't need to cook it or anything like that. So my roleplay group, every time they have,
That's
it's
a
a
good
full
shout.
day. They do like a plough. We always put like a ploughman's kind of thing on whoever's hosting it.
But when I snack and have a little snack, it's kettle chips, and it
Nice.
has to be the chili.
Thai chili.
The chili and sour cream, the red packet.
Oh, yeah.
I always go
Those
into
are the best ones.
Always go
Yeah.
into the supermarkets and they never have them. So you have to get them online. Oh, it infuriates me. So the red,
Amazon delivery.
Yeah, the
Just
red-
kettle chips. Thank you very much.
the red kettle chips, man, they are
This
the
man
best.
has told me if ever I see them, I have to pick
get
them
them.
up for him.
Nice.
For me, I tend to struggle with getting to events on time. So if I do have time to pick up snacks, it's usually Doritos.
Not Rustler's Burger.
Davey.
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 Yeah.
Not Wrestler's Burger, but it's usually a pack of Doritos. But the biggest problem I always have is if I have food, I can't not eat it. I can't think, I'll have that in 2 hours' time. I'm thinking, right, I've just eaten my tea. I feel quite full, but those crisps are looking quite tempting.
It's like it's opening itself before your very eyes. It's
Yeah,
like,
I really struggle to just leave it for later. I'm thinking, do you know what? I'll just eat it now and deal with the consequences. It's the same when you take a packed lunch to work. It gets to about 9:30 and I'm like, they're right there. It would take seconds. The person who I love playing games with, because I know his snack selection is bang on point.
Chris?
Tambo.
Oh, Tambo. I've not played at Tambo's. Need to get that in the
Tambo,
diary then.
you never know what he's going to bring. It's always delicious. It always gets to the point where if you need something sweet, he's got it.
Yeah.
If you need something savoury, he's got it. To the point where on Sundays, because he's a chef, he'll bring you the roast dinner roll on a Sunday night.
So Curly's birthday, he turned up with
Yes.
platters of random stuff, and it was like, this is all delicious. Thank you very much.
And it's wonderful food, and you just never know what he's got. You know, and he's never not turned up with anything. It's the one constant in my life that Tambo will never let me down when it comes to bringing food to a game night.
Tambo and taxes.
So thank you very much, Tambo. We love you lots.
Your pork and stuffing baps are legendary.
So thank you very much for the question. Greatly appreciated. Great question.
Thank you.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, and Jimmy, we look forward to seeing you at GRIDCON, or
Having had seen you at GRIDCON.
We saw you, it was brilliant and great to see you whenever we see you.
This is where you haven't annoyed him and he's thrown you through a window.
Maybe.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Cheers, Jimmy.
Thank you very much. And now it's time for our penultimate turn, where we talk about what we're excited about, what we've got coming up, what we're looking forward to, whether it's board game related or anything in particular. Chris, I will start with you. What have you got in the pipeline? What have you got coming up that you're looking forward to?
I'm going to be kind of boring. Not too much, to be honest. Just more of the same with what I've been doing. I would very much like to get into the calendar game of Fury of Dracula, mainly because Halloween has just really come and gone.
Yeah,
and
we
I was
missed it, haven't
suddenly
we?
thinking about it, like halfway through October, I went, I haven't played this game in like a year, and I'd really like to go again. And I think only like one person owns it, so I'm like, I have to reach out and go, can I play this game with you, please? So I very much like to get one of those on the cards at some point. But apart from that, yeah.
I
not too much.
normally play it at Halloween. It's kind of, I get the vibe. I think this is when you.
My first game with the group
It was
was,
that one, wasn't it?
it was the very first week of November, second week
That's
of
right,
November,
yeah.
and that was Fury of Dracula. Yeah.
Just for
Oh, it's been a year, is it?
who owns that game?
I have no idea.
2 people.
Oh, it's two, is it?
It's 2 people.
When you said one person, I was like, I'm pretty sure I
I'm
know
one
who
of
it is.
them. Yeah, I'm one of them. I don't get to play it a lot.
Curly owns it, and you
Yeah.
own it, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You get confused with board games thinking they're Pokemon. And you've got to catch the ball.
Charizard, Fury of Dracula.
I choose you.
Yeah.
Adrian, what have you got coming up, mate?
Well, let's say timey-wimey stuff I've either had or have got GRIDCON coming up.
Oh, okay.
You definitely have it at this point. Yeah.
But there's a couple of games that I've either bought recently or I've sort of penciled in to play. So one of them is Space Base. So I've just bought that recently. So it's a sort of, I'd say it's Quacks level. If anyone's played Quacks or Quedlinburg, it's kind of that weight. You have a lineup of ships numbered 1 to 12. You roll 2 dice. You either activate both dice separately and they relate to the ships that are numbered that, or you add the 2 dice together and you get the higher value ship. And the higher value the ship is, the more rewards you get. And then as you upgrade your ships, the ship you kind of have upgraded turns upside down and gives you a different bonus that you get on another player's turn. So if they then roll, let's say you upgraded your 3 ship, so your 3 ship is now better, but the one that was there goes upside down. And now if JP rolls 2 3s, I get to activate that twice. Or if I had a 6 and he rolled 2 3s, I get to put them both together and get a 6.
Oh, interesting.
And
This sounds right on my complication level.
it's one of those
Like
things where
Street.
there's a little bit of decision making, but to some extent you are kind of ruled by the dice a little bit. You have some, I can add them together or I can keep them separately. And some of the ships will say, well, if you rolled a 10, you get to have the 11 instead, because it's like instead you can activate the card to the right of it. And there's loads of little choices in there, and it's just the first to 40 victory points. It's really not very heavy at all. I deliberately bought it for some of the friends and some of our gaming group here that are kind of those light to mid-weight sort of people. So I've got that one, and then the other one is I'm holding Marcus to a game of Castles of Burgundy, because I've never played a Feld before. I'm determined to play one this year. And it's one of his favourite games, and just really want to give that a go again. That's another of roll 2 dice and
Do a thing and
do some things, but that's a bit heavier, a bit more Euro gamey. But definitely on my list of playing. So those are my kind of 2 that I'm really looking forward
awesome.
to. Yeah.
I like games with choice, but just not too much choice.
Yeah, it's that thing of you are ruled by both those games. You're ruled by some extent by the dice.
Yeah.
But then you have to make choices based on those dice. So you can't plan too far forward. You
I
can't
like that,
have a
'cause
mind.
It's tactical rather than strategic.
But playing
isn't it?
games like, especially the Perseverance game, you've played that enough that you know kind of what everything does. As a new player coming into that, it's like, I've got no idea.
Yeah.
And knowing that everybody else has an idea is very... So that
You've got 15 choices, Rob. What do you want to do?
I'll run out.
Yeah.
I'm going to run out the front door and never come back.
Yeah.
But like just that randomness, and you have to deal with what you've been given. That for me is the perfect level of sort of weight of a game.
That's why I bought it. As I said, like I'm kind of getting burnt out on 2 heavier board games. I've played a long run of heavy board games recently, and just I think I'm kind of overcompensating by buying lots of even lighter than I normally would go board games to put in my collection.
So you've got a broad mix of games.
It's always good, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Right? So.
JP. Obviously, I said GRIDCON, and just as a mental note, which would be weird because the time this episode potentially comes out, the GRIDCON episode
expansion
pack it's probably already been out. So yeah, we had a great time. I think listen to that episode, and then you can hear all about what we what our thoughts were on GRIDCON, which is really weird because we haven't done it yet. Time travel, strange. So I'm really excited about ISS Vanguard, because we managed to get the tutorial started about a week and a bit ago. I actually played the tutorial on my own just to kind of figure out the rules, figure out how it works, and then went, I've got to play this with people, reset it, got people around and replayed it. So obviously I kind of knew what was coming up, but it was fine. So yeah, the tutorial is very, very well done, which is no surprise. Mr. Grogan actually wrote the rule book on this one, and it's just a brilliant way. Kind of reminds me of what you said earlier, Adrian, about how decks of cards are kind of seeded to help you learn the basics.
It's the best type of introduction I've seen to a game. Yeah.
I didn't really have to read the book. It kind of just walks you through, and it kind of
just did it for pleasure.
But I did it for pleasure afterwards. But for those that don't know what it is, I mean, ISS Vanguard is a very narrative-driven space adventure explorer game. Think Mass Effect. If you like the kind of video games. And it's kind of split into kind of 2 stages. You've got the exploration stage, where you're kind of on the planets exploring things, threats are happening, could be alien stuff, it could be not Mr. Wibbles but other things, could be just the environmental stuff,
planet,
and you're working together to try and do stuff, and there's a lot of like audio narrative logs that are played through the app, which is very immersive, and
That's cool.
lots of like, oh, this is what's happening, oh my god, oh, the ship's gonna blow up, all that kind of stuff. And then that's kind of half the game. The other half is actually driven by what's called the ship book. And if you've ever played XCOM, the video game where you're like researching projects and engineering, producing things and tech and all that kind of stuff, it kind of drives all of that, and it's done in a really efficient, clever way. And actually you think, oh, I'm just reading through a binder, because essentially what it is, a card binder.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it?
And you kind of go through step by step and you're making decisions, but it's really engaging, and you're like, yeah, I want to do that, I want to do that. We are at the start. I have no idea where this thing is going to go, but I'm totally like, just my one
totally
play, I'm like, I can't wait. Playing on Sunday, I want to see what the hell's going on.
Awesome, man. I love it when something grabs you that deep and
Yeah.
you're just looking forward to doing it again.
I could play that just probably 5 days straight and just crack through it, but work, you know.
Life. Children,
kids,
Oh.
wife, usual. Yeah. What about you?
For me, I've recently got into I listen to a lot of audiobooks,
You do.
and I have got into a wonderful book series called He Who Fights with Monsters. Stupid title, like that doesn't really have any explanation as to what's going on. And it's by a person called Shirtaloon, aka Travis Deverell, and it's narrated by an Australian person who really brings it to life, and it's basically an RPG game story in book form.
Right.
So about these characters and everything else, and that's why I went back and started playing Skyrim, because you can kind of build a character. It's very similar to what he does in this book. Wonderful book series. If anybody reads anything other than rule books.
Is there anything else to read other than
Such a
There is.
quizzical look
There
on
is.
these two faces.
Yeah.
There's He Who Fights Monsters, obviously.
There is that. But no, check it out. Wonderful book series. I'm already on book 3. I cannot put this thing down, to the point where I did all the housework on Thursday because I had the day off, just so that I could listen to the book. Because I didn't want to sit there with my headphones in doing absolutely nothing like a madman, so I did the housework.
I mean, Rob was talking my ear off Halloween night when we were walking the kids around the village, and he's like, I've just listened to this book and you've got to listen to it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get there, mate, but I'm not as big into books as you, and you have the time to listen to them, don't you?
Only because I drive, I
Yeah.
listen to them while I drive, and I do so much driving in my job that it just makes things.
If I did the same, I would be doing exactly the same with the audio books, because it's just a great way. You get so bored of doing radio, don't you? Listen to radio, it's like, oh.
But if anyone, like I say, reads or listens to audiobooks, check that book out, because it's a book series, and it's absolutely fantastic. So that's what I've been getting into, and that's why I've gone back and playing Skyrim again.
Sweet.
So yeah.
Sounds good.
And that with the final turn wrapped up, it's time to make sure that you've killed the boss, totaled up victory points, and decided who's won. Thank you very much for listening. If you do want to get in contact with the podcast, our email address is players@whoseturn.co.uk. Our Facebook is Whose Turn Is It Anyway Podcast. Our Instagram is @whoseturnpodcast. And our TikTok is @Whose Turn Is It Anyway. Thank you very much again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Ciao.